Good evening and welcome to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for April 18th, 2024. This time I'll call the meeting to order. Commissioners who are present for this evening's meeting are at City Hall. We also have staff from the City Attorney and Clerk's Office as well as the City Planning Department. If you're joining us on Zoom this evening, we can see that you are here. You may observe the meeting, however, your ability to be seen on screen and talk will be muted. During the public testimony portion of the meeting, you'll be unmuted and then be able to comment. Please note that we cannot take questions until the public testimony portion. If you have any process questions during the meeting, please email cityclerk@meridiancity.org, and they will reply as quickly as possible. That way we'll begin with roll call. Madam Clerk?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Lorcher,
Here.
Commissioner Sandoval,
Present.
Chairperson Seal.
Here. All right, first item on the agenda is the adoption agenda, and there are no changes to it. Can I get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda, and we have one item on the consent agenda, which is to approve the minutes of the April 4th, 2024 meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. All in favor, can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Right. This time I'd like to briefly explain the public hearing process. We'll open each item individually and begin with the staff report. Staff will report their findings on how the item adheres to our comprehensive plan and unified development code. After staff has made their presentation, the applicant will come forward and present their case and respond to staff comments. They will have 15 minutes to do so. After the applicant is finished, we will open the floor to public testimony. Each person will be called on only once during the public testimony portion. The clerk will call the names individually of those who have signed up in advance to testify. We'll need to have you state your name and address for the record, and you will have 3 minutes to address the commission. If you have previously sent pictures or a presentation for the meeting, it will be displayed on the screen, and you'll be able to run the presentation with assistance if needed. If you have established or are speaking on behalf of a larger group like an HOA, where others from that group will allow you to speak on their behalf, you will have up to 10 minutes. After all those who have signed up in advance have spoken, we will invite any others who may wish to testify. When you are finished, if the commission does not have any questions for you, you will return to your seat in chambers or be muted on Zoom and no longer have the ability to speak. And please remember, we generally do not call people back up. After all testimony has been heard, the applicant will be given another 10 minutes to come back and respond. When the applicant is finished responding to questions and concerns, we will close the public hearing and the commissioners will have the opportunity to discuss and hopefully be able to make final decisions or recommendations the city council is needed. So at this time, I would like to open file number H 2023-0073 for Ultra Clean Car Wash, and we will begin with the staff report. It appears we lost Sonia.
Apologies, Chair. We're getting some feedback down here at the station, so we're seeing if we
gosh.
can get it corrected. Mr. Chair, we have someone from IT on the line. Can we just take a quick technical break and then get things? He's asking us to log out of Zoom.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take a 5-minute break and fix our IT issues and let everybody else in the back get signed in.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me talking down there? Test, 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 test.
All right, we'll go ahead and call the meeting back to order. I will not read back through everything that I do to call the meeting to order. And we will go ahead and open up file number H 2023-0073 for Ultra Clean Car Wash, and we will begin with the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. The first application before you tonight is a request for a conditional use permit. This site consists of 3.13 acres of land. It's owned CC. It's located at 715 East Fairview Avenue. The history on this property, it was rezoned to CC back in 2001. The rezone ordinance requires conditional use permit approval of all future uses on the site. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation is commercial. The applicant is proposing a conditional use permit for a vehicle washing facility on 3.13 acres of land in the CC zoning district per requirement of the rezone ordinance. The conditional use is not required by the UDC for a vehicle washing facility in the CC district. Typically, the rezone ordinance also included several other provisions, all of which have either been previously addressed or are being addressed with this application. Vehicle washing facilities are subject to specific use standards for such in the UDC. Staff finds the proposed site design is in compliance with these standards as noted in the staff report. Access to the site is proposed via one right-in, right-out driveway access at the northern boundary of the site from Fairview Avenue, an existing arterial street. The driveway location depicted on the site plan complies with ACHD's requirements. Because access is only available from an arterial street, the UDC and ACHD requires a driveway to be constructed and an associated easement to be granted to the adjacent property to the east for future access and interconnectivity. And access to the west is not required because of the 5 Mile Creek that's located along the west property boundary. Off-street parking is provided in excess of UDC standards. A minimum of 11 spaces are required. A total of 24 spaces are proposed, exceeding the minimum standard by 13 spaces. Due to the nature of the proposed use, the proposed parking will mostly provide parking for use of the vacuums, but will also provide parking for employees. A minimum 25-foot wide landscape street buffer is required along Fairview Avenue. A 40-foot buffer is proposed. The UDC requires a minimum 25-foot wide landscape buffer to be provided to residential land uses. Residential uses exist to the southwest of this site in Creekside Arbor subdivision. A 50-foot wide irrigation district easement exists along this boundary for the 5 Mile Creek. The easement may count toward a portion of the required buffer as it provides a spatial separation between the uses. However, an additional buffer should be provided outside of this easement along the entire southern boundary of the site at a width necessary to accommodate a berm and or wall or fence with dense landscaping that includes a mix of materials consisting of evergreen and deciduous trees, shrubs, lawn, or other vegetative ground cover, allowing trees to touch within 5 years of planting. The application the landscape plan has been revised to reflect this requirement. Staff feels this is necessary due to the orientation of the car wash with the entry facing the residential neighborhood, which will likely funnel noise from the car wash directly to the residences. The applicant submitted a revised plan, as I noted, that's here on the right. It does include a 2-foot tall berm and also depicts the existing wrought iron fence along with the added landscaping. An attached 10-foot wide sidewalk exists along Fairview Avenue at the northern boundary of the site, and a 10-foot wide multi-use pathway exists along the western and southern boundaries of the site along the 5 Mile Creek with any 20-foot wide recreational easement in accord with the pathway's master plan. The creek lies within a 90-foot wide irrigation easement, 50 feet of which lies on this property. As I mentioned, a wrought iron fence exists along the east side of the pathway. No other fencing is proposed. The proposed hours of operation are from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Because the entry to the car wash directly faces the existing residences to the south, which could be negatively impacted by the noise from the car wash, staff recommends a condition of approval that prohibits the car wash from operating before 7 a.m. and after 10 p.m. Conceptual building elevations were submitted as shown for the proposed car wash that depict modulation and articulation on all facades with belly bands, awnings, metal cladding designed to look like cedar, glazing, and other architectural features. A mix of materials are proposed consisting of burnished CMU, natural stone, cedar rendition, metal cladding, and other natural materials with metal roofing and canopies. The color scheme will include various browns, tans, and other warm earth tones. The final design is required to be consistent with the design standards listed in the Architectural Standards Manual. Written testimony has been received from Connor Lindstrom, KM Engineering, the applicant's representative. They are in agreement with the conditions in the staff report, and no public testimony has been received. The applicant is here tonight to present. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Would the applicant like to come forward? Good evening, sir. We'll need your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Connor Lindstrom with CAM Engineering, 5725 North Discovery Way, Boise. And I am representing Ultra Clean here for this project. Thank you, Sonia, for your presentation. Like Sonia said, we don't have any concerns with the staff report. We agree with the conditions of approval. I have just a brief slideshow here. I'll probably just fast forward here to the landscaping plan. As Sonia mentioned, we did update this and revise it to include that dense landscaping there on the southwest boundary to make sure we're screening from the apartments there that are across the pathway. There's also a berm that was added alongside that landscaping, and there is a wrought iron fence there. We do have some other landscaping that was added, additional trees that were required by the staff report on the western boundary there. We did choose to group them together just to give a little more visibility to the structure that's going to be there. And we'll work with staff further as we go into CZC design review for the structure. So that's really all I have. If you have any other questions, feel free to fire away.
Just a quick question, just more for an education for me. The water reclamation that happens here, does that involve reclamating the water that's there and then you use regular sewer for disposal?
Chairman Steele, I am not certain on that one. Yes, that you got it right.
Okay.
That's correct.
Just wanted to wasn't sure. There's a lot of different things in the Leeds buildings where they do water reclamation differently. So just wanted to make sure that was the way it was being done there. So, commissioners, do we have any questions for the applicant? None? Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up?
Mr. Chair, nobody has signed up to testify.
That's what all these people are here for, I'm sure. It's the car wash. I will ask the audience, is anybody here would like to testify on this? Please raise your hand or indicate so. No, that's kind of what I thought. Unless you have any final comments, we'll go ahead and thank you for your testimony, and I will take a motion to close the public hearing for file number H 2023-0073.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for file number H 2023-0073 for Ultra Clean Car Wash. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Public hearing is closed. Any comments? Okay. I was going to say, if there's no comments, I mean, this seems pretty straightforward to me, so it's kind of an interesting lot with the path next to it, so it's nice that that'll be uninterrupted, and I like that. So other than that, there's a little bit of history on this, so the CUP is where we're at. And the motion needs to be to approve or deny, since we are the approving body on it, for whoever wants to make the motion.
Mr. Chair,
Go right ahead.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I move to approve file number H 2023-003 as presented in the staff report on the hearing date of April 18th, 2024, with no modifications.
Second.
Got the file number wrong.
Oh, I did?
Yep. It's H 2023-0073.
Okay.
Does the second
2023-0073.
still stand?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Been moved and seconded to approve file number H 2023-0073 for Ultra Clean Car Wash. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right. Motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, and with that, we will open file number H 2024-0005 for Pebblebrook subdivision, and we will begin with the staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. The next application before you is a request for annexation and zoning and a preliminary plat. This site consists of 13.94 acres of land. It's zoned RUT in Ada County, and it's located at 5725 North Meridian Road. The comprehensive plan future land use map designation is medium-density residential, which calls for 3 to 8 dwelling units per acre gross. And it also has a park designation on this property, which the Parks Department has determined that a park isn't feasible in this location. The applicant is requesting annexation of 13.94 acres of land with an R8 zone to develop 54 building lots and 6 common lots. Proposed lots range in size from 5,420 square feet to 15,482 square feet, which will accommodate the variety of dwelling sizes proposed, ranging from 1,574 square feet to 3,195 square feet. The subdivision is proposed to develop in one phase. The existing structures will be removed upon development of the property. A revised plat has been provided by the applicant after the print date of the report to address staff's comments pertaining to the lot transition along a portion of the southern boundary. And that is, let's see here. These lots right here. ACHD is requiring Meridian Road to be improved with 17 feet of pavement from center line with a 3-foot gravel shoulder and a 10-foot wide detached sidewalk. Only 6 feet of pavement and a 3-foot wide 3-foot wide shoulder is required at this time. Curb and gutter will be added later when Meridian Road is fully improved. Access is proposed from the extension of existing North Garbo Avenue at standard street sections at the north and south boundary of the property. Local public streets are proposed for internal access. No access is proposed or allowed from Meridian Road. A stub street is proposed to the county parcel at the northeast corner of the property for future extension. That is this piece right here. Bulb outs are provided along Gleason Street as traffic calming in response to ACHD's comments requiring Gleason to be redesigned to reduce the length or include passive design elements. A 35-foot wide street buffer is required along Meridian Road, which is an entryway corridor measured from the ultimate back of curb. All fencing is required to comply with the UDC standards. A minimum of 15% or 2.09 acres of qualified open space is required to be provided within the development. An open space exhibit was submitted that depicts 16.16% or 2.25 acres of open space that meets the required quality and qualified open space standards and exceeds UDC standards. A minimum of 2 points of site amenities are required to be provided. The applicant is proposing 2 sports courts, pickleball, which are 8 points, and 2 dog waste stations, which is another point, which total 9 points, exceeding UDC standards. Per the UDC, dog waste stations must be installed in the ground and include waste disposal bags and trash receptacles, and sports courts are required to have markings and include benches for seating. 5 conceptual building elevations were submitted as shown for the proposed 1- and 2-story homes with 2- and 3-car garages. The homes are craftsman style with building materials consisting of a mix of board and batten siding, lap siding, and optional masonry accents. The applicant clarified that optional masonry accents depicted on the elevations is incorrect, that all homes will have masonry accents, consistent with the Paramount architectural guidelines. To ensure that to ensure this for a higher quality of development, staff is recommending masonry accents are required on all structures in the development agreement. Written testimony was received from Ben Semple, the applicant's representative, in agreement with the conditions in the staff report. And a voicemail was received from June, I'm going to slaughter this last name, apologies, Govea, concerns with school overcrowding and density. Staff is recommending approval with the conditions in the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The applicant like to come forward? Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Ben Semple with Rodney Evans and Partners, representing the developer. My address is 1450 West Bannock Street, Boise, Idaho, 83702. First, thanks to Sonia for the staff report and all the help in getting to us to this point. I want to reiterate, we are in agreement with the conditions of approval, all of the agency letters within the staff report. I just want to touch on a couple things. So as you're aware, we're requesting annexation and zoning of the 13.94 acres. Does this move this forward? Oh, there we go. At 5725 North Meridian Road, for a preliminary plat with 60 total lots, 54 buildable and 6 common, for the construction of 54 single-family homes, all detached. The current zoning of the parcel is RUT in Ada County, hence the annexation request. And the property is proposed to be annexed with an R8 zoning designation to accommodate the overall density of the development. The R8 zoning designation meets all surrounding Paramount zoning other than one out parcel or enclave parcel that's still RUT in the county that's at the northeast corner of the property. The existing homes and the outbuildings on the site will be removed as part of the project, along with some of the existing trees and shrubs primarily located along the Meridian Road frontage. Those will be, a full arborist report was provided with the application that identified 158 caliper inches for removal that would require mitigation. We will be fully mitigating for that tree removal. There will be 101 trees planted on the site, 181 caliper inches of deciduous trees, and 198 vertical feet of conifers, so 6 feet per conifer. 245 shrubs are added to the common area spaces with the proposed project, and additional landscaping will be installed with every home that gets built here, further increasing the number of trees and shrubs on this site. Currently, it is a farm field with a couple of farmhouses, old farmhouses there. We feel that the requested annexation, zoning, and preliminary plat consistent with the staff report is appropriate, as the land use and the zoning designation is appropriate for the future land use map within Meridian. All future construction will comply with the density, lot size setbacks, and other applicable provisions of Meridian's UDC. Our density is 3.97 units per acre, so we're at the bottom end of that R8, what the R8 would allow for density. Additionally, care was taken with the site design, lot sizes, and open space to ensure compatibility with the adjacent Paramount subdivision. The architecture and materials will conform with the Paramount architectural design standards, which include specific provisions regarding the exterior elevations, colors, accent materials, lighting, masonry, fencing, and landscaping. All existing perimeter fencing will be retained and protected or replaced. And our fencing will match that of Paramount. Actually, the developer who is here tonight to answer some questions too, if necessary, has taken Paramount CCNRs and their architectural standards and is incorporating those into the CCNRs and architectural standards of Pebblebrook subdivision. So for all intents and purposes, we're matching exactly what Paramount would allow with all of their structures within their subdivision. Public roads are proposed to access the homes with 33-foot back-to-back road section and 5-foot attached sidewalk. Trees will be installed behind the sidewalk within a 47-foot right-of-way that conforms with ACHD standards for local roadways in this area. The roads were stubbed to the site, always anticipated to be extended through this site with a development. Sorry, let's see. We will stub to the northern property boundary at the northeast, as is a standard of zoning code and ACHD standards for potential future redevelopment of that site. It is currently privately owned, so not sure if anything will happen there, but potential is there if possible. We are not proposing any connection to Meridian Road. That was not allowed per ACHD standards. Anytime you redevelop a piece of property, your access comes off the lesser classified roadways or roadways stubbed to the site, which this has. So we are closing any accesses off of Meridian Road and installing the buffer along there. Roadside drainage swale, slight pavement widening, and then a 10-foot wide detached multi-use pathway sidewalk will be installed along Meridian Road and are measured from the back of curb. Our buffer is 47.5 feet wide and contains class 1, 2, and 3 trees along with shrubs and perennials and lawn designed to be drought tolerant. Open lawn areas will be included within the interior common spaces, which will provide active and passive recreation. The total qualified open space is 98,188 square feet, or 2.25 acres. That will be memorialized in the development agreement, ensuring that 2.25 acres of qualified open space remains with this development upon completion. And as Sonia mentioned, that is in excess of the UDC standards for open space. 2 full-size pickleball courts will be provided. This is that open space exhibit that's shown. You can see kind of in the central area there, 2 pickleball courts. They will be striped, painted striped. We will provide some benches next door to them or next to them for seating. And then the dog waste stations will be installed with in-ground installation. That is a detail that's included in the landscape plans that were submitted in the packet. Additional open space and micropath amenities provide additional amenity points that we didn't call out here. There's a connection from the 10-foot wide pathway into the subdivision through the buffer, and then multiple micropaths through the subdivision for passive or active recreation, walking of dogs. The Paramount HOA has agreed to allow the project irrigation system to connect to the Paramount subdivision irrigation system. And this project will transfer their water right to Paramount so that they can have, it's actually, we did a evaluation of the irrigation and we have about just over 1 gallon per minute in excess of a water right for this to be able to effectively irrigate this site. And so that excess would be usable by Paramount. Basically, the entire water right will go into their system, and then we would utilize that as part of the project to irrigate the common area spaces within this project as well as the home sites. During the neighborhood meeting, we had approximately 30 attendees. The discussion including concerns about traffic during construction and after build out. We had parking, privacy, property values was a big one, and then cohesiveness with existing homes from a size standpoint and aesthetic standpoint. One of the reasons that we adopted the Paramount architectural guidelines for this project was to increase the cohesiveness with the existing Paramount to surrounds it on 3 sides, basically. Although we are restricted, one of the issues came up construction traffic. We're really going to apply with ACHD to have a temporary construction access off of Meridian Road for the overall subdivision improvements so that large truck traffic isn't going through on the local roads through Paramount to get to the site. Obviously, upon completion of all of the landscaping and subdivision installation improvements, there would be no access from Meridian Road, so home building would occur through traffic through the local roadways, as occurs in Paramount when any other new homes are built there. Surrounding Paramount subdivision has a range of home sizes that are 1 and 2 story. They vary depending on how far you get from this site, anywhere from 1,500 square feet to over 5,000 square feet for homes. Originally, the proposed plan for Pebblebrook was to do 1 and 2 story homes with a range of 1,574 to 2,968 square feet. After the neighborhood meeting, the developer and home builder went back and looked at their models and increased the maximum size by a couple hundred square feet so that we have a range of 1,574 to 3,195. Feels a little bit more cohesive in terms of home sizes there. It really reinforces what this commission has had a desire of for a variety of home sizes within subdivisions in order to appeal to a wide range of home buyers. It also allows for generational living within this subdivision. So someone moves in as a young family to a smaller home. As their family grows, they may need a larger home. They can move it into a larger home. And then when their kids grow and leave, they can have another home so they can continue to live throughout their years within the Paramount subdivision, which is a very positive place to live, or Pebblebrook subdivision. During the planning process and the lead up to the application, we had multiple conversations with the Paramount HOA board. All the feedback that we received was very positive. The desire of this developer, excuse me, is actually to have Pebblebrook subdivision brought into the Paramount HOA. The board has indicated that they have some support of that, although it does require a full HOA vote to allow Pebblebrook to be annexed, if you will, into Paramount HOA. The HOA board has indicated they don't want to make a decision on that until after we get through a city process to see how this all shakes out. But ultimately, we feel very positive about what this could do and be another addition to Paramount. If that happened, HOA dues go to the overall Paramount subdivision. That would help maintain their existing amenities and facilities, as well as maintain the proposed amenities. It would also allow for Paramount subdivision residents to use the amenities within Pebblebrook and vice versa. One of the reasons we picked the amenities that we did on this project was because during our meetings with the HOA board, they voiced a desire to have pickleball courts and stuff that they don't have in Paramount right now. So we pivoted away from some of the other typical ones you see in subdivisions and decided to fulfill that desire with the proposed amenities here. We really feel that that will provide a really good enhancement of their current facilities. So residents, I talked about the construction, access and traffic. You know, the developer will be required to implement a traffic control plan during construction, as well as during construction of homes, and erosion control measures during construction to minimize dirt and dust that blows around to the surrounding homes there. We did have positive feedback during the neighborhood meeting, as well as some you know, concerns. And I received multiple phone calls and emails from residents in this general area that were supportive of this because it was a single family residential home development and wasn't looking at townhomes or higher density here. I think that there had been some maybe preliminary conversations about this being a higher density type of project in the past. So they were happy to see that that's the direction that this was going. I know that that's not everybody, but some of what we got was positive too. You know, ultimately, we do feel that the proposed single-family residential homes will provide a positive addition to this area, whether or not it's brought into the Paramount HOA. The developer has committed to utilizing the CC&Rs and architectural standards that they have worked to develop while using Paramount's direction. and that will remain whether or not it goes into Paramount. So this will be the same project, whether it becomes part of Paramount or remains Pebblebrook as an independent subdivision. And we think it's a very thoughtful infill redevelopment of this area that's a very desirable area of Meridian. I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, we have questions for the applicant.
Mr. Chair,
Right ahead.
I do have one question either for the applicant or for staff, just kind of in terms of integrating with Paramount. Do we have an idea what the units per acre or the density is for Paramount? For that HOA or for the surrounding subdivisions?
I do not have a exact calculation, but it's in the same future land use map designation, medium density residential. So it would have been 3 to 8 units per acre. So it could be just a tad less than this, but this is low as proposed. So it's very similar.
Thank you.
Quick question on the lots that have the paths in there. Is this a stipulation that there'll be visibility fencing provided where the paths are? The walking paths?
Mr. Chair,
Go right ahead.
I can answer that. Yes, every common area space will have open vision, 5-foot fencing incorporated along the boundaries of them.
Okay,
That was a slide. I skipped over it too fast, though. We've
that's,
addressed a couple of different conditions of approval, including the fencing, as well as the 2-to-1 lot ratio that Sonia had mentioned too. We brought that into conformance with the UDC standards there.
other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do we have anybody signed up to testify?
Mr. Chair, the first person on the list is Andrew Patilla.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Address, please.
My name is Andrew Pietola. I live at 417 West Broderick Drive, Meridian, Idaho. That is immediately south of the proposed Pebblebrook development in the Paramount neighborhood. As has been noted here by the applicant and others, this is not simply a neighboring development to Paramount. It's quite integrated into Paramount. It's surrounded on 3 sides with no access from Meridian Road. The only access to the development will be through Paramount streets. And I don't need to revisit what was said about the intents to become part of the Paramount neighborhood and do their best to match the Paramount standards. However, what I would like to testify to is that last Wednesday, the 10th, there was an HOA meeting in the Paramount neighborhood on that agenda for that meeting was to approve or disapprove the addition of this development into the Paramount HOA. Due to the kind of overwhelming response from the owners with concerns regarding the density of the housing, lot sizes, designs of the houses, common areas, that vote did not take place, but suffice it to say there was somewhat overwhelming opinions that the plat or the development as proposed was not compatible with the Paramount neighborhood. Aside from that, I think we need to consider the broader area concerns here. In addition to being compatible with Paramount, which the applicant has indicated they desire to be part of, there are other open areas around the Paramount neighborhood currently, such as the Orchard Park or Orchard Hill, that's just to the north there, where there will be some other high-density housing projects possible. So others may testify to concerns regarding traffic and school capacity and things of that nature. But my main concern tonight is that there seems to be a disconnect between the applicant's position in having this development part of Paramount and the Paramount owners who are not satisfied with the plat as proposed. So my recommendation is that the plat not be approved until such time that the Paramount HOA has accepted the plat.
Thank you very much.
That's all I,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
All
Mr.
right.
Chair,
Go ahead.
next on the list is Patrick Murphy.
Patrick
Murphy, 513 West Broderick Avenue in Meridian. And again, like the other gentleman stated, I live in that vicinity, and this seems to be more of, they mentioned all these amenities that they were going to include and this, that, and that's great. But this, what it gets down to me is a quality of life. What is the quality of life going to be like with this development in there, with no access to Meridian? To access Meridian, they're going to have to come through my neighborhood, which is already crowded. It took me to drive 3 miles here from my home. It took me an extraordinary amount of time. Meridian is way too crowded. Widening it may improve some, but it's just, you've got 2 schools there, 2 churches, some businesses at the other end. Traffic there is horrendous. I noticed this gentleman, he said he lives in Boise. I don't know if he's ever taken the time or anyone's taken the time to drive Meridian at any time during the day to see what traffic is like on Meridian. It's horrible, simply horrible. My main concern is the additional traffic in my neighborhood, not just, and I would like to voice my opposition to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chair, Zachary Tanis.
Good evening, sir. Need your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Zachary Tanus. I live at 493 West Broderick Drive. I've lived there since August of 2021. So I'm relatively new. Not necessarily opposed to development of that area. In fact, would probably welcome it. I have a view into that area from the second story of my house through the east-facing windows. That said, I disagree that the plat as it's laid out complements the current neighborhood. You look in particular at the 500-foot vicinity map and the homes in the immediate surrounding area. They are not closer to that higher end density. They're in fact closer to the lower end of 3 homes per acre. All the homes on my block in Broderick are 1/4 of an acre or larger, and most of the homes in an area are 1/4 acre. And if they're not, they're more than 9,000 square feet, or about 1/5 of an acre or more. And I believe that if there's to be development in that area, they should be consistent with that and not the higher density as proposed. Gentleman mentioned homes in the 1,500 square foot range on those smaller lots, and that's not consistent with that area of Paramount bordered by Director Street to the north, Producer Drive to the south, and Fox Run to the west. And so I don't think it's consistent enough with that current area to be approved as it is. I think as it is, it will negatively impact traffic flow as mentioned, both in the neighborhood and onto Meridian Drive. I believe it'll negatively impact enrollment at Paramount Elementary, which is inside the neighborhood. And I believe it will also negatively impact the existing amenities that the neighborhood enjoys, namely the pools and other open space. And I think lastly, as the other gentleman mentioned, this does not take into account the other proposed development to the north end of that neighborhood in Paramount and Orchard Park. And so this cannot be viewed in isolation. So I will summarize by saying in opposition to the zoning as it currently stands with the plat density at 54 homes, it's excessive for the area and will negatively impact the rest of the residents in Paramount. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Mhm.
Lee Cooper.
Good evening, sir. Need your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Lee Cooper, 150 West Broderick, Meridian. I'd like to tell you just a little bit about the Paramount neighborhood. I thought it was interesting in the staff report, the reference to an enclave. And at first I thought that didn't give it justice, but as I looked up the definition, it might be close. defining it as something, a place that's different, separated from the surrounding in character. We moved to to Paramount specifically for the feel. It's a neighborhood that really does care about each other, goes above and beyond for each other. Friends are all based near to each other in the Paramount neighborhood. And so Paramount is just something that's quite different and quite special to the city of Meridian. And when I think of kind of the situation we've got, I think of just friendships and kind of how this is feeling a little bit like a forced friendship with something that maybe we don't want. The neighborhood is known for shoveling sidewalks for each other, kids riding bikes, kids playing in the front yard, playing in the street, kids walking to school. We've got 3 of them in walking distance. It's unique. I don't know that you can compare any other neighborhood in Meridian that offers a high school, a middle school, and an elementary school, and a neighborhood surrounding like what Paramount offers to us. It really is an enclave or something different. It's a family-friendly place. And so in the spirit of friendship, I just want to point out that the elimination of a requirement for a traffic study, I think, doesn't give the residents of the Paramount neighborhood a good enough understanding for how many trips 54 homes may create. My rough math, because I don't have a manual that I can access easily, is somewhere between 6.6 and just over 7 trips per home, which would be in the ballpark of 400 trips if you approve 54 homes. Looking at the route that they may take to get to Meridian Road, most of them are going to come down Broderick, where my kids are playing, walking to school, riding their bikes. It doesn't feel family friendly to offer 300+ trips a day in front of a house that does that. I think kids are at risk. I think walking the neighborhood becomes questionable. Back when Shinden was having work done, our street became a thoroughfare for people cutting through because they didn't want to deal with the backup on Shinden. I feel like it's going to get about the same. So I think at least us residents who will have to deal with this forever are owed some sort of additional thought process on how many trips will our neighborhood be impacted by an addition. Existing homes, existing kids playing in the street. 400 trips seems like a lot to ask of us. And the elimination of access to Meridian Road was entirely beyond our control. We didn't have that opportunity. Long ago, Brighton looked to acquire the land, but it wasn't given as an opportunity, and that's why it's not even in the city of Meridian, right? There was an opposition to development, and once the landowner passed and his land changed twice, we end up with 54 homes being proposed on the land that nobody ever wanted developed. If I think I understand the city map well enough, there's an indication that a park was planned there. And I think even today, that map still shows a city park. I can understand the city not wanting to take it on, but if we have a city document that indicates that, I'm guessing that's my time limit. All right. So my ask is, in the spirit of friendliness and friendship, and a forced friendship from a group that's getting paid to be a friend, I think that one, the landscape strip between the sidewalk and the street needs to be adhered to just like the rest of Meridian has. I think the setback from every house that's new needs to be equal to the setback of the house on the other side of the fence. I think the lot size needs to be equal to the house on the other side of the fence. I think the landscaping needs to be completed at the time of construction, both front and rear yards, to accommodate those of us that live adjacent. I think that we've understood that the construction methods and facades will match that of the neighborhood, and I think that's a requirement that should be non-negotiable. And I think that we were misled a little bit in the city meeting or the developer meeting. We were if you went to the meeting notes, you'll see that they
Sir, I'll need to
indicated
ask you.
majority of the homes.
Gotta have you wrap it up here.
Majority of the homes were indicated to be single story, and I think what we just saw was not that. So the ask is that if we want to insert something in the middle of the neighborhood, it becomes really similar to what Paramount already is, a family-friendly place. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Madam
Chair,
Clerk? Mhm.
Kyle Lublin.
Good evening, sir. And you-
Good evening. Kyle Lublin, 390 West Heston Court, Meridian. And I guess I just have a couple questions or points of clarification that hopefully the applicant can answer this evening. So one question I have is, it sounds like they were willing to make the commitment to adopt the Paramount CCNRs and architectural guidelines and regulations, regardless of whether they're annexed or not, which I agree that they should match that to maintain consistency with the neighborhood. I was at the same neighborhood meeting that someone spoke about earlier where the majority of the people there did not seem to be in favor of them joining our HOA, and the vote was delayed until some of these approvals are worked through. And then I guess the other question I have is they've indicated that they have an agreement to join our irrigation, and I guess it was my understanding that there had been discussions, but there, as far as I know, there hasn't been any agreement inked or executed. So I guess is this development able to stand on their own, irrigation wise, pumping wise, or whatever pressure they need if they do not join the Paramount irrigation system? So those are the two questions I have that I would be interested in getting a response to. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chair, the next person is Christine Huber Arnold.
Good evening. Need your name and address, please.
Christine Huber Arnold, 928 West Deercrest Drive, Meridian, Idaho. Okay, so I just have a couple questions or statements. I do oppose this annexation because we've been in Paramount since 2009. We've seen a lot of development. We started on Producer Drive. We downsized to a smaller house from a 5,000 square foot home to a 2,700 square foot home. In these years that we've been there, we've seen a lot of changes. And obviously our home prices have gone up quite a bit in the last 5-6 years. And you can't get a home in Paramount right now. If you do get one, there was one that went on the market yesterday, it's already pending. They're $800,000. From what I understand with Hayden Homes is that their prices are around the 450 mark, maybe 500,000. But if they say they're with Paramount, it's going to go up more, but their quality is not more. Just because the outside facade is our standards doesn't make the inside a home a quality home. And I don't mean any disrespect. There's a lot of people who like Hayden Homes, and that's great. But they're not in the Paramount standards. We have been there obviously for a long time, and we're not going to leave, but we do not want our neighbors having 54 homes going into this neighborhood and bringing down the value of our home. And I think that's something that we all need to really discuss. Is there a way that they could, at the meeting, at the Paramount Elementary meeting last week, they said they could not put in a pool on their property, in their neighborhood. And my thought is why don't they take out a couple of homes and then they would have the space for a pool? Pickleball is not going to be a loved sport if you're living next to it. It's loud. It's very loud. So people that are going to end up moving next to a pickleball court are not going to be very happy. You go listen to pickleball all day and you'll know that it's pretty loud. So that's all I have to say. Hopefully you take this in advisement. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chair, Audra Quinlan. Lori Billard?
Good evening, ma'am. Need your name and address, please.
Okay, well, good evening, Mr. Commissioner, and thank you very much to everybody on the planning and zoning. I appreciate your time. I know this is a voluntary position and you're one of us, and I appreciate the time. I'm going for the Parks and Rec Commission next week. So I understand, and I will be understanding what it's like to be on your side as a regular citizen and not a politician. I am here representing Cheryl Hurd, who is our precinct committee person for our district. Unfortunately, Cheryl slipped and has a fractured ankle right now, so she was not able to come and speak herself. Three things that I'd like to delve into. Oh, I'm sorry, Lori Ballad, I should know that. Lori Ballad, and it's really French, it really should be B.O., but I was a retired teacher. Can you imagine, Mrs. B.O.? Anyway, thought maybe I'd get a smile. Ah, got a smile, thank you. Yeah, kindergarten teacher being Mrs. B.O. was probably not a good thing, so he said I could go by the American Ballad. Anyway, the first thing I'd like to bring up is when the Hayden Homes bought the property, they knew what they were buying. They purchased into an area that was more of a Brighton home type of area, which is a higher level of building. So I'm not exactly sure why they bought this property, knowing that they're moving into an area that is not really conducive to the houses that they built. So part of the buyback that they're getting is well-deserved because they bought into an area that is not really suitable for their houses. I appreciate how they're changing the front of the houses, but then again, when I was in my 20s, saving up for my first house, 1,200 square feet, I did not expect to move into Beverly Hills. Now, I know that Paramount is not Beverly Hills, and I'm not trying to say that at all, but it's a middle upper class area. I had no presumption that I was going to be able to buy a house equivalent to, back in California, a Canoga Park house versus middle upper class. So they seem to be out of their place in purchasing these homes. And the second thing is people have talked about the traffic. I have been going to the council meetings either in person or watching them on Zoom. So I'm well aware of what's been happening with the city council. The traffic is horrendous. 2 weeks ago, I was at the council meeting for the school board, and they had on a Monday, a joint meeting for the school board and the city council. Unfortunately here, they do not do school board planning first before the houses. So, and I have a picture if you'd like to see it, up on that screen right there, it showed that Heritage Middle School is already 70 students over. So right now they have no room for 70 students and they want to put more students in. I know they're going to build, but to the degree that they're building. I'm not trying to say don't, but it's already 70 students over. Paramount is at the brink. They have little less, maybe a classroom left to go. Rocky Mountain has already had to put in and bring in bungalows. So what's happening is we're putting in houses where we don't have the infrastructure. And I guess I know that was my thing. So my last hurrah would be, how can a plat be approved without a place for the school children? Do we really want more busing? Because that's what they're having to do with some of the kids now when they're overbuilding in developed areas. They're already, West Ada School District is already busing kids out of their local schools because of developments like this. So we just appreciate your time and consideration, and thank you very much.
Thank you much. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Chair, no one else has signed up.
All right. Would anybody else like to come up and testify? If you would like, yep, go right. Come on up. Good evening, sir. Need your name?
Hi,
and
good
address,
evening. How
please.
are you? I want to say hi to everybody. My name is Fernando de Anoche, and I live at 5757 North Arliss Avenue in the Paramount community. So thank you so much for allowing me to speak tonight. I'm going to be very blunt about how I feel about it. I'm a pretty simple guy. And honestly, I don't like it. I come from California as well as Lori, and I didn't come all this way to see what's happening to the community. It's something that I came from. And I don't particularly like what's happening because this is how neighborhoods get destroyed in California. I lived in Northern California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, very expensive, high retail, very dense community, wherever you go. And what ends up happening is you have a nice neighborhood, a neighborhood that's been there for a long time, a lot of character, a lot of people that have lived there, generations of people, right? Businesses. And then developers will come in, and what they'll do is they'll piggyback off a community and they'll build, very dense housing up against, neighborhoods that they're just not designed to take that kind of impact. And so what end up happening is more traffic, more problems, more headaches. People get upset. It interrupts with the flow of the community. And yeah, I strongly oppose this development. And I realize that these gentlemen over here, they represent their company and they're trying to build, they're trying to progress. I understand that, but it's a lot. It's a lot of living units all at once, right? I would like to humbly suggest either they take into account what the people are, talking about tonight, what's going on with the neighborhood, and find a way to make it more of a lower density project that could involve going back to the drawing board. I understand that, but I was at the HOA meeting, and I can tell you that overwhelmingly, most of the homeowners are not happy about it. They're very upset about it, including myself. And like I said, I just wanted to be able to share that with you folks tonight so you can make a determination based on how we feel as a community. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Would anybody else like to come up? Sir, go ahead.
Hi, my name is William Gillen. I live at 319 West Lockhart Lane. That's in Cadence at Paramount, which is on the border with the Paramount community. Two things I had a question or wanted to bring up. One, a gentleman already did, is the irrigation issue. I think that if they cannot, the proposed development cannot be part of the Paramount plan, can they do this on their own? Do they have enough water to do it on their own? And secondly, if they don't have enough on their own, do they actually, is it one more straw into the pool that we have for us basically between McMillan, Chinden, Linder, and Meridian Road? The second concern I have is the traffic traffic in general, but also the traffic during construction. I look at last year, maybe the last 4 or 5 months of 2023, the Catholic Church there built a new rectory on the west side of Meridian. And there was a lot of construction traffic, and that was just building one house. Often from next to La Mirada, there were trucks and cars parked all up and down the street. And that was just bringing enough construction workers and equipment in to build one house. I can't imagine that it's possible to build 54 and get all that stuff. I can't imagine the problems that would come up if you brought that much traffic in, that much equipment, that much lumber, concrete, everything else. And that is a sensitive issue to me because in my home, I have the picture of a child who was killed. He would be my brother-in-law, but when he was a child, he was killed by a truck that was going through a neighborhood to get supplies to construction. So it's not I'm not saying that happens all the time, but it's enough that it's a sensitivity. And I saw the issues with the construction of that rectory, and I think this would be that rectory on steroids, on steroids, on steroids. And I think that has to be addressed, that a proper way to get that, if the development goes through, to make that happen in a way that's safe for the neighbors, minimizes the impact on us, noise and things like that. And then also just, I don't think it's an option to bring it into 2 Garbo streets at all. So I don't know how that can all happen. So I appreciate you listening to my comments, and thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else like to come up and testify? Sorry, ma'am, we've already called you. Thank you. Oh, hold on a second. Is this stuff we can put on the public record?
Yeah, ma'am, if you want to just give those to the city clerk and she can put them in the record. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to testify? Sir, come on up.
I am Bob Beckman, 324 West Broderick Drive. I'd just like to reiterate what folks are saying here. I agree wholeheartedly with things that have been said. This is not an apples to apples comparison of development. The homes adjacent to the Pebblebrook are a much higher quality, and I would say a much larger size. That 1,500 square foot home size that they stated, I don't know where you find that in Paramount. Maybe at the front end where the elderly housing area is, but beyond that, in that horseshoe area, I would venture to guess all those homes are 3,000 feet plus. So again, not an apples to apples comparison of development. The only benefit I see is to the developer. There's really no benefit to the Paramount community with this development. One gentleman did ask about traffic. I am a traffic engineer by profession. 54 lots will generate about 540 trips a day. So,
Thank you very much.
I oppose it like everybody else here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Good evening, ma'am. Need your name and address, please? And please speak into the microphone there. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jamie LaJoy. I live at 5757 North Arliss Avenue in Paramount. I'm coming up here. She has started a petition and she hasn't had very much time to collect signatures within our neighborhood. I concur with, I think it was the first gentleman who said that we were all kind of left out of the loop and blindsided. I was also at the HOA meeting last week. And I just also feel that there is a real disconnect in what their representative is saying, that our HOA board has told them that we wanted and what we actually want. So I guess if there is any way to connect this to where the community can be built in a way that's more suitable and agreeable with the people that already live there and the children that already go to school there. I think that that would be good if we could have more time to collect more signatures. I just wanted to say that I concur with those statements. There is a disconnect. And I don't approve of the high density housing. It doesn't match up. If you drive by the lot and look, I can't picture 54 homes there. It's not going to look like the rest of the neighborhood. So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir, go ahead. Come on up.
My name is Don Doss. I live at 381 West Dreyfus, Meridian, 83646. I am the president of the HOA for the Paramount Homeowners Association. There's some misrepresentation going on this evening as to what the board of directors actually said to the developer, and I'd like to clarify it. The board gave its recommendation to the developer. We did not approve the development. We did not concur with any type of consent as to density, zoning, traffic, or anything else. That recommendation was predicated upon two things. One, the development was.
Sir, if you could address the commission.
I'm sorry?
If you could address the commission by speaking into the microphone, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm not sure if they can hear me or not.
Yes, they can.
Thank you. I've got to calm down a little bit here. The developer gave a presentation to the board of directors approximately a month ago. Based upon that presentation, the board in a subsequent meeting gave its approval to recommend to the association that the development proceed predicated upon the CCNRs, the ACC, and other types of regulations within the community be adhered to. It was our understanding that since they owned the property, they could pretty much do what they wanted to do with it. We had concerns as to density. We had concerns regarding traffic. And we felt that those concerns were going to be addressed by the planning and eventually by the city council. If in fact the homeowners do not want to proceed with an approval, it's our understanding that the planning commission most likely is going to approve this particular development within the Paramount community. If that's the case, the reason we gave our recommendation was so that subsequent homeowners after the initial purchase had to adhere to the CCNRs and all of our other rules and regulations that we have adopted over the past 7 years. And I just want to clarify and just make it perfectly clear that the board's recommendation was not a recommendation to proceed with a vote at the annual meeting. And the annual meeting, we were never given an opportunity to clarify what the board's position was. And if there's any questions on that this evening, I would be more than happy to take questions and respond as best I can. And I thank you for your time, and I thank the other attendees here for their time as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else who would like to testify? All right, going once, going twice. All right, the applicant like to come back when we respond?
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, again, Ben Semple with Rodney Evans and Partners, 1450 Bannock, Boise, Idaho. Yeah, a lot to kind of break down here. So I want to, I guess, start with the last commenter. We were not trying to represent that the HOA had approved this project for us. We had multiple meetings with their HOA board. During those meetings, we discussed some changes that could be made to help comply a little bit more with the Paramount HOA CCNRs and architectural standards. And after multiple meetings, not only with the board, but their representative or the management of their HOA, we came away from that with a feeling that they appreciated the changes we had made and that they were supportive of us to pursue, as a private land developer, something that they could eventually take to their HOA full membership for a vote. That being said, some of the other points, the main one, this project does not need to be a part of Paramount. We were trying to comply with their standards and thought, you know, this is kind of in Paramount. So If it could be another addition to Paramount and provide some additional amenities to those residents there, that's a great thing. These are other neighbors. These are going to be homeowners that move in here. They may or may not have children. They could be retirees that are looking for a smaller home that currently live in a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot home in Paramount. The irrigation, as I stated during my presentation, we have 1 gallon per minute more than we need to irrigate this property, common area, and homes, completely independent of Paramount. If we need to install a pump station off of our water right, it's absolutely doable and it will be done. Again, looking for a way to consolidate infrastructure, a way to actually provide a benefit to Paramount, because I know that there's some issues with irrigation water in Paramount at certain times of year. So we thought, well, if we put our entire water right in there that is more than we need, that should probably help Paramount. It doesn't need to be there. Not very far from this site, actually just south and east of Paramount Elementary, there are patio homes within the Paramount subdivision that range anywhere from 1,400 square feet up to 2,500 square feet. I don't know if the residents of Paramount came out in opposition of when that phase of Paramount was developed, but those are comps within this neighborhood that are maybe a quarter mile from this site. And we definitely feel like the proposal of Pebblebrook subdivision is in conformance with not only Paramount and the overall density within their subdivision, but per the UDC, we're at 3.97 dwelling units per acre. That is less than 1 unit per acre above the lowest range of the R8 zone, 3 to 8 units per acre. We're at 3.97. This is not a high density project. I do a lot of projects around Idaho, outside the state. I live in Boise. I've lived in Meridian. I've lived in Eagle. I've lived here since 1991. And high density looks like a project I did in Boise that's 36 townhomes on 3 acres, not 54 units on almost 14 acres, that are all detached single-family homes. ACHD did a full staff report. They indicated we do not need to do a traffic study on this project because it's 54 homes. Typically, their threshold is 100 living units. Every road in Paramount, other than some common drives here or there, are public roadways meant to allow the public to circulate throughout these subdivisions or get from one subdivision to another, or from one collector to another collector or to an arterial. This developer, my client, is very sensitive to construction traffic. Again, I stated in my presentation, we're going to be doing a traffic control plan to ensure as great of safety as possible during construction, not only of the subdivision improvements, which is why we're talking to ACHD about a construction entrance off of Meridian Road to keep all large grading excavators, all the larger equipment that's associated with pipe installation, everything else, to not be on local roadways within Paramount subdivision. Once all of those improvements are installed, which includes all of the common area landscaping, we can't drive across that landscaping from Meridian Road to build homes. 54 homes aren't going to start getting built at the same time, so it will be staged slightly. They're still trying to figure out which pods they're building first, but are definitely going to be noticing all around this property and doing traffic control plans and having very high standards for their contractors that are building these homes. Hayden Homes, I know, has some, I guess, reputation in Idaho. They have done some entry-level homes. They also build communities in Oregon and Washington and other states in the Pacific Northwest. They specifically designed this project and this architectural design to comply with Paramount. That includes interior and exterior finishes. That includes the materials they're using to ensure high quality standards. They have developed this luxury product. This is not what they would do at another higher density project that is geared towards first-time home buyers. This is something that's geared toward the type of resident that lives in Paramount. Again, I want to state the development agreement will ensure that those architectural standards are upheld. The CCNRs, whether or not this goes into Paramount subdivision, will be the same. They will comply with Paramount CCNRs for fence type, color, materials on the homes, architectural design, and those will be incorporated into the CCNRs as well as their development agreement. And if it's in Paramount, that's great. And if it's not, that's great too, because it's going to look the same. The amenities that we're proposing exceed the standards of UDC. I know that there's concerns about pool use and people that don't like pickleball, but everything that we heard during the lead up to this was that they wanted amenities that were different. We were trying to respond to what the Paramount HOA was telling us. Hayden Homes and the overarching development company here is looking at providing some amenities that are appealing to the people that will be moving into this community, as well as existing residents if they want to use it. If they don't want to use the pickleball, they don't have to. Not everybody that lives in here, again, is going to have kids. They're not all going to go to the pool every day. Let's see. I want to touch on, there was a statement about an enclave. I think that's actually in reference to this piece of property. An enclave is a piece of property within the county that exists within a city's area of impact. Yeah, it wasn't developed by Brighton Homes because the previous owner did not like Brighton Homes. She didn't want them to develop her property. So that's why we're here today. And that's why Hayden Homes has the property and Brighton doesn't. I think I've touched on everything that I wrote down here. I would stand for any additional questions.
Yeah, honestly, the question that I have is on the 4 parcels that are in so then the bottom, what would it be, the southeast corner? Have you put any thought into, and I understand this is it's a hard ask. You're trying to match up with something that's acres with something that's, sub. Have you put any thought into how to address that differently? And everybody up here will probably laugh when I say this because I hate shared driveways, but have you thought of a concept with shared driveways that would help with that or something along those lines? I mean, that's one of the concerns I have about this, or at a minimum, keep those properties to, 1 story.
Mr. Chair, actually, we did have our initial pre-plat had a shared drive in that corner for lots. ACHD and the city of Meridian planning staff said they didn't want a shared driveway there. And they'd rather have a knuckle.
That's because they listened to me sometimes. So
And
the irony of this is not lost on me.
I will state that we did revise the preliminary plat to meet the 2-to-1 standard. The properties immediately in that corner there were divided, I think, through a short plat process. They have access from a producer to the south, I think, right there. And so we are trying to be as sensitive to those lots as possible with this development. But yeah, ultimately, yeah, we looked for a shared drive and it wasn't liked.
Okay, understood. Would you be willing to commit to having single story on those homes or on those?
I can't commit to that for my client at this point.
Okay.
I know that those lots are very large. They have some
Right.
larger setbacks. They're all 2-story, at least from what I've seen being built there right now. So, yeah, I can't commit to 1 story there.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions, concerns?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lorcher, go ahead.
So the comments I'm hearing tonight about traffic is in order to approach your subdivision of Pebblebrook, the only access is through Paramount. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lorcher, that's correct. We have 2 public roadways, one that stubs to the north and one that stubs to the south, always intended to be extended into this property for access. And ACHD will not allow us an access to Meridian Road.
So regardless if it's Hayden Homes or Brighton Homes or whomever Homes decides to go in here, it ultimately will always go through the existing subdivision, so they're all connected, correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lorcher, that's correct.
And you said that the majority of the streets that impact your area are all public roadways anyway. There's no private drives. Is that what you're saying?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Lorcher, my understanding is every road in Paramount is public. There may be a couple little common drives or some private accesses here or there, but public ACHD property.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One with the shared drives, yeah, I hardly recognize you. This is,
I know.
no, but one question just to clarify, and I only asked because I know it was a question that was brought up, but just to make sure we're all on the same page. If you're not part of Paramount or connected to their water system, this subdivision can stand entirely on its own. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Smith, correct.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Nope. All right. Thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate your time. With that, I will take a motion to close the public hearing for file number H 2024-0005 for Pebblebrook subdivision.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for file number H 2024-0005. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Public hearing is closed. Who would like to go first? Commissioner Lorcher?
Guess I'll start.
Okay.
Infill projects are always challenging, and because as homeowners from the Paramount subdivision, whether it's Brighton or Hayden, you know, you don't own that space, and sometimes you need to be careful of what you wish for. If it doesn't go, if Hayden Homes doesn't build these 54 houses, it could be another developer building townhouses because, or some other product that is allowed in the R8 zoning district. R8 is the exact same measurement of density that currently is in Paramount subdivision. So I'm actually a little bit surprised on the hesitancy from the neighbors about this particular proposal. Even though the houses are a little bit smaller, the developer is suggesting that they follow exactly the same codes of materials as currently available in Paramount, except that the lots are a little bit smaller. In regard to the schools, you've got not only the public schools, but you also have St. Ignatius, Challenger, and Ambrose, all within your area over there as well. 70 students above capacity at Heritage is something that's going to happen every year anyway. My kids went to Chaparral, they went to Meridian Middle, they went to Meridian High. I live near Oahe High School. Unfortunately, in our community, people are first and schools are second. And since the city does not have any authority over the school district and how schools are built, we really can't change their methodology as far as that is concerned. As far as the layout of this subdivision and the comments made by the developer, I feel that they're trying to listen to you as much as they can within being able to develop this property. I'm actually kind of surprised that there is so much objection to it because it is thoughtfully laid out, and I think they'll continue to work with the HOA. And if the HOA doesn't want to work with them, then it sounds like that'll be a standalone project anyway. So I hear what you're saying. There's going to be traffic, and looks like they hopefully will apply and be approved for a construction so that you won't have those big trucks coming through your neighborhood. But your homes were built the same way, and I could only assume back in the time that your homes were built, the same objections had come up. There's over 700 homes in the Paramount subdivision. And, you know, this adds a small number. And, you know, I guess I'm just really trying to be sympathetic to what you're saying, but I'm also struggling because out of a lot of applications that we get here in the city of Meridian, this one's actually halfway decent. And I would have a hard time not making a recommendation to city council for annexation.
Thank you for saying what I'm thinking much more eloquently. So I'm frankly kind of surprised. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I'm a little surprised by the resistance or the hesitation to allow this to come in here. I mean, this is a piece of property whose, you know, ironically, I don't think that the last owner didn't like a specific builder. They didn't like you. They didn't want you in there. They didn't want homes in there. They didn't want growth in there. That's what they didn't want. And now you don't want homes in there and growth in there. You know, love thy neighbor. That's kind of as simple as it gets to me. Don't look down your nose at somebody that can't afford something as big or fancy as you, especially when somebody's trying to make it to that standard. I mean, we've had a lot of applications in here that come in where they try and cram everything they can on every square foot possible, and they don't care about the surrounding area. They don't care about integration. They try to hit the minimums and nothing else. And you can tell that. That's not what this is. I mean, this is you know, to me, this is a good application. It's laid out thoughtfully. The walkability is nice. The open area is way beyond what they need to provide. I mean, they could put more houses on this very easily, and they're not. So this, you know, I mean, they've been thoughtful about the layout of the property so that they have a 2-to-1. There's one. It's very hard to get that when you're going up against a multi-acre site, you know, in that bottom corner. So I'm just, you know, again, I'm a little taken back by the comments in here. So, I mean, we all need to be good neighbors. You know, property like this is going to continue to develop. That probably includes everything around it. So hopefully you are as lucky to get something like this to go in here, because again, if you know, careful what you ask for. So, you know, my mother-in-law was part of a whole bunch of people that absolutely positively didn't want some stuff going in by their house, and they got their way. And what went in was much worse. So, you know, this is part of what will blend into your community, and hopefully the people that live in there are, you know, just as passionate about their home ownership and, you know, their need to keep their community, you know, a good community, where they take care of their kids, where they watch out for their neighbors. So I would look at that as an opportunity to welcome them in, not be bad neighbors. So sorry, a little bit on the soapbox tonight, but again, kind of taken back by that. Commissioner Smith, go ahead.
Chair. I want to thank you and Commissioner Lorcher for stepping on the soapbox. So I don't have to. So I know there. I want to. I'm trying to be sensitive to the idea that we're sitting up here on a dais and not in the crowd. I've actually lived a very similar experience to this. I come from Southern California originally. And I kind of laughed at the idea of Canoga Hills home or a Beverly Hills home. My wife and I were starting out. We couldn't afford to purchase a home in my hometown of La Habra or Downey or any of the other areas that are, you know, affordable in Southern California. And that was part of the reason we moved to Idaho is great people and a life we could afford. So I've lived in the shoes of the people who would potentially be living in these houses. And honestly, starting out, we probably couldn't afford these houses. These are, I think, I agree, really nice houses. I think they're a really nice product. I have a lot written down here, and I'm just going to try to keep it short. But one of the reasons, you know, I worked in housing policy a little bit in California, and one of the comments about the San Francisco area, that area has one of the lowest housing start rates in the country. There are plenty of reasons, plenty of things you could say about the Bay Area, but I think that they build too much housing currently in this day is probably not one of them. And so when I come from this background of living in an area that has immense sprawl and still no affordability, and I look at other areas that have no housing starts really, no new housing, and the affordability crisis that I think some of my fellow former Californians, don't worry, our secret's safe inside of this room. But I think that affordability crisis, I don't want that spreading to Idaho. I'm thinking about, I don't have children yet, but I'm thinking about their future. I'm thinking about my nieces and nephews, and I'm thinking about other people. And I get there's a concern about housing prices and how this will affect housing prices. We had a house down the street in our neighborhood that went up for sale, and I commented, "Hey, that might drive our housing price up," because it was listed for a really nice amount. And my dad, who used to be a realtor, said, "No, well, their house is a lot nicer than you. It's not going to touch your comp at all." And I think that's another thing to consider, is that these are different houses. There are. I understand the intention to build something very similar, but there are different metrics that go into housing prices and comps and things like that. So I think there are a lot of concerns here that maybe through continued discussion and continued conversation with the developer, with the HOA, with the community, I think a lot of them are things that maybe are perceived inconsistencies or perceived disagreements that are actually really just small marginal things. I agree. I think this is a really good project. I think this is a really good, I wouldn't even say it's half decent. I think it's a really decent project for this. And I think there are three things that you'll probably hear the most common most frequently if you come to these meetings. One is Chairman Seal opposing common drives. Two is that infill is hard, and three is that be careful what you wish for. And I think those latter two are really important here. I think you have a developer who's trying really hard to be a good neighbor. They don't have to do those things. They don't have to have CC and Rs that comply with yours. And so I think this is, I would be hesitant to look a gift horse in the mouth. And so for the same reason that Commissioner Lorchard, Commissioner Seal, that you've expressed, I'm fully in support of this.
Commissioner Sandoval, do you have anything to add? Okay, unless anybody has anything further, I would take a motion. I do want to say I would, and I mean, we can let city council figure it out, but if anything in here, I would like to see those larger lots that are more than a 2-to-1 held to a single story. And we've asked that of other applicants for the exact same reasons. So just that way, at least you'd have, and I understand there might be a 2-story on the other side of it, just in the premise of trying to continue to be a good neighbor. That's the only thing that I would say. Yes.
Excuse me, the revised plat didn't, showed everything being a 2-to-1 at a maximum. There are no higher than that now.
Okay, so oh, gotcha. Sorry, I thought there were 4 on the bottom, but with I see the line now, so.
Yeah.
Got it.
Right, this area, they changed that, so it's 2-to-1 here, 1-to-1, 1.5. Yeah,
Okay.
A little bit over, so.
Okay.
So does that change your comment?
That changes my comment.
Thank you.
But I am sometimes ignored anyway, so.
Just wanted to clarify, so.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay,
Mr. Chair,
go right ahead.
after considering all staff, applicant, and public testimony, I do recommend approval to City Council for file number H 2024-005 as presented the staff report for the hearing date of April 18th, 2024 with no modification.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve file number H 2024-0005 for Pebblebrook subdivision. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Application is approved or recommended for approval. All right. What's that? There you go.
Chair.
Go right ahead.
Second.
Second. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you much.